of darkness, my old friend, I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping, in restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp, I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my whispered the sounds of silence.
Hello there, welcome to my channel. My name is Doug and I'm back with another fountain pen review. Today's fountain pen gives us an opportunity to learn a little bit about Newtonian physics. Yeah, no, not Fig Newton, Sir Isaac Newton. Think of him as Newton the apple guy. You know, an apple fell from a tree and he yelled, "Eureka, I've discovered displacement." No, that's not it. No, that was Euripides. No, that's tragic. Aristophanes. No, that's funny. Archimedes. That's it. Eureka. So, not Archimedes. Sir Isaac Newton is the apple gravity guy, and the one physicist everyone loves because he explained the world the way we experience it, not in some loopy, stringy, relativistic time warp that Einstein and Feynman dreamed up. And he was the one physicist everyone hated because he was a putz. Ask Leibniz. You know. Oh wait, you can't. He's dead. But I digress. Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And that's where the MaJohn RS1 comes in. You see, this pen is the equal and opposite reaction by the Moonman Pen Company to the Kaweco Pen Company. I'll explain all of this after a couple of Newton jokes that I've been saving up. So if Wayne Newton, the singer, not the physicist, married Olivia Newton-John, she would be Olivia Newton-John Newton. And if Olivia Newton-John married Elton John, she would be Olivia Newton-John John. And if Olivia Newton-John used this fountain pen, it would be an Olivia Newton-John MaJohn because Newton's third law of motion. And if she was eating a Fig Newton at the same time, she would be... And it's time for yet another MaJohn controversy. And I'm sure that I will have either explained it already, or I'll explain it later when I get to the parts and features of this pen. But this is another MaJohn pen from China, just come today, and let's open it up. This is another cool package from Moonman. Little tin in a nice, bright Chinese red, and the wonderful MaJohn motto, "Feel the temperature of writing," which I think in translation means the passion of writing, something like that. And this is an RS1. And I had never heard of this pen model before until I read a little bit of controversy about Moonman, MaJohn, and Kaweco. And I think we'll be comparing this pen with this pen later on. Well, let's open it up. Really nice presentation tin. A booklet of instructions. We see the branding has been changed on the booklet, but not on the tin. And it talks about converters, pistons, eyedroppers, the whole schmear. One size fits all. And there is the pen. It's in a foam insert. Let's pull it out. And it is a very metal version of the Kaweco Sport. Sans clip. Has some kind of a thing on it there. It's not a roll stop. Maybe it's to affix an optional extra. I'm not sure. Looks very nice. And there we have the Schmidt nib. So Schmidt number 5. This one's in a fine point. And of course the pen posts. Ooh, that's rather nice. Very interesting. Ooh, that's very sharp. And there's our tiny little converter. And I'll be interested to see just how similar these two pens are. The MaJohn RS1. And what I'd like to do today is go over the parts and features of this pen, show some size comparisons, some measurements, and then provide a writing sample. And after the writing sample, please stay tuned as I will talk about what I like and what I don't like so much about this fountain pen. So let me explain my reference to Newton's third law and what it has to do with this fountain pen. Newton's third law states that when two bodies interact, they apply forces to one another that are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. The third law is also known as the law of attraction and reaction. Those of you who have been around fountain pens for a while will recognize the Chinese fountain pen company, Moonman. I've got a whole playlist of reviews of Moonman fountain pens. They run the gamut from cheap and awful to amazingly beautiful and reasonably priced pens. They also imitate and downright copy other pen designs, like this Moonman M800. It's a fabulous fountain pen for the money, and this one is one of my favorites in my collection. But it's also an almost perfect copy of the Momento Zero from the Italian pen maker Leonardo Officina Italiana. Here's my Momento Zero in Prugna. In the last couple of years, Moonman has taken aim at copying a large number of Mont Blanc fountain pens, from the Agatha Christie to the Bohème and the Little Prince. There's not much anyone can do about it because international design copyright laws can't be enforced against China, and besides, Moonman is not breaking any laws. But even though Moonman had not copied a design by the German pen company Kaweco, Kaweco decided to copyright the name and brand Moonman in the European Union. This meant that Moonman could not market their products in the EU under the name Moonman. So Moonman was forced to change their branding. First they changed it to MoJiang, which I'm told is pronounced MaJohn and is Chinese for Moonman. Then they changed it to MaJohn to make it easier for Westerners to pronounce. Then they applied an equal and opposite force against Kaweco by copying their most famous pen design, the Kaweco Sport. Other Chinese brands have copied this pen for years. People seem to love the little Delac brass pen. And then there is the Wingsong 3007, and even this very cheap little Pai Li that has a snap cap and a transparent section and a hooded nib. But this is the first from the Men in the Moon, MaJohn. And this is my Kaweco Sport. People adore these little pens and collect them by the thousands. They come in all kinds of materials and colors. This one's in plastic and is called the Classic, but you can get them in brass, aluminum, and steel. Kaweco designed the Sport in 1935, and the plastic model comes in a large selection of colors. And you can see that MaJohn has copied everything about the steel Sport except the branding, and the fact that this is titanium alloy. The Kaweco has the Kaweco brand medallion on the top finial button, whereas the MaJohn RS1 just has a pointed brass finial button. You can see that I've taken the Kaweco Sports clip and put it on the MaJohn. It fits perfectly, and I think it gives the pen a cool vibe, where the clip matches the gold tone of the finial as well as the nib. The clip is an extra cost optional addition to the Kaweco. They come in various colors and materials and are around $6. Overall, the MaJohn is about 3.5 millimeters longer than the Kaweco, both posted and uncapped, but that has more to do with how deeply this pen posts and the different cap threads and depths, because the cap and the body are virtually identical. From the top, we see a conical piece of gold metal in the center of a domed cap finial. The slightly brushed titanium alloy cap tapers up to the distinctive Kaweco hexagonal shape of 6 flatted sides, and then tapers down again to the end of the cap. It gives the look of a sharpened pencil to the lines of the pen, and I'm sure that's what the designers in Germany in 1935 were going for. I wonder if pencil designers got their graphite in a knot about their stolen design. The clip is also hexagonal in shape and just slips on the cap. But this cap has an extra piece of engineering to it. There's a gold metal plate with 2 steel slotted screws holding it in place. I have no idea what it's for, except to think it is a placeholder for a possibly future clip accessory. It serves no other purpose from what I can see. I removed it and put the clip on, but by spreading the clip a little bit, you can get that Kaweco clip to get on there around that little metal bar. So let's take the clip off for now. Put it back on the Kaweco. So this is how the pen arrives. There's a slight step down from the cap to the barrel, which is cylindrical and straight for about 2 centimeters, where it steps down about 1 millimeter in a smooth taper and is straight to the end finial, which is domed with a center divot milled into it. And it doesn't have the distinctive knurled edges that the Kaweco does. The cap unscrews in about 1 1/4 turns to reveal a small titanium alloy concave section that is the same length as the Kaweco, but is very slightly narrower at the waist. The nib is a number 5 size, gold-colored steel Schmidt fine nib. I'm willing to bet Bach wouldn't have anything to do with MaJohn on this one. Bach supplies MaJohn with the nibs for the Leonardo copy M800, but for this copycat pen, MaJohn has gone with Schmidt. The nib and plastic feed are part of a nib assembly that can be unscrewed for replacement or maintenance. Let's get a closer look at this nib. It is a typical stock Schmidt steel nib with the familiar Schmidt filigree work on the border and also surrounding the script F for fine, and with Schmidt iridium point stamped into it. The cap threads where the section meets the barrel are very sharp, and you can feel them drag along your skin. It actually helps with holding on to the small slippery section, however. The section unscrews to reveal the standard international push converter. The pen will also accept standard international short cartridges. The inside of the cap shows a plastic cap liner affixed to the cap finial with a brass screw. The cap posts deeply and securely with a positive click and what almost feels like a vacuum seal. When you pull the cap back off again, it makes a popping noise. Boy, that's fun. I could do that all day. And that noise you hear might just be some Kaweco blood vessels popping.
That dirty Turkish archaback, flattened, Morton, Philip, Bucket, Martin, Perkaluma, Burton, Wacka, Frax, Lack, Wagon, Floated, Bat, Coronet, Catabat, Rackalap.
Unposted, the pen is, like the original, almost too short to write with, but it actually works fine in a pinch. Of course, the pen is designed as a pocket pen and intended to be used posted. In addition to the popping sound you get with pulling the cap off the barrel, there's also some strange 2-step kind of hitch in capping the pen again. If you don't give it that extra little push, you end up trying to screw the cap on with the cap threads not engaged. And if you start to screw before it's all the way in, well, you just look like a fool, don't you? Not that it's ever happened to me personally.
But they're always afraid of pulling out. That's their big problem, you know?
Pull out doesn't sound manly to me, Bill. I'd say leave it in there and let's get the job done.
Like anything, once you get used to it, it becomes easier. I bought this pen on AliExpress from a store called Zoop Digital Express for $55.97 US. It was available in 2 sizes, one with rivets in the barrel and one without. And there were 2 nib options, EF and F. I see now there is a Schmidt 14 karat gold nib option for the fine for $122 US with the rivets and $118 US without. I don't see how decorative non-functional rivets are worth $4 myself. Now let's look at some size comparisons. And here is the MaJohn Titanium Alloy RS1 with a Kaweco Sport Classic, a Pilot E95S, a Moonman TI200 Titanium, and a Wingsung 601 Flighter stainless steel. Now let's look at the posted. And here they are posted. You can see that the MaJohn and the Kaweco are virtually identical in terms of size. That section on the Kaweco is just slightly thicker. And posted, both these pens are even shorter than the E95S. And of course, the Moonman and the Wing Sung are hooded nibs, and the E95S has a 14 karat gold nib. Now let's look at some measurements, and I'll be back with a writing sample. And we're back with the writing portion of the review. This is Clairefontaine 90 GSM paper, and this is the MaJohn RS1, and it has a number 5 size fine steel nib. Let's check the wetness. It's plenty wet for a very fine nib. The nib is smooth with a good amount of feedback that you might be able to hear. And the ink today is Lamy turquoise. And here are some close matches to this ink from inkswatch.com. As to line variation, well, there is actually a little bit that you can press out of this. It's not a flexible nib, but it's certainly not what you consider very stiff. And this line that the pen makes is 0.3 millimeters in thickness, which makes it a Western extra fine to extra fine, or a Japanese extra fine to fine. And for our quote, and for some reverse writing, well, that's very scratchy and it's tearing up the page. And some quick writing. Has absolutely no problems keeping up in this example, but I have a caveat on that. So what do I like and what do I not like about this fountain pen? Well, first I have to say that I had some and continue to have some issues with the ink flow in this pen. The nib seems wet enough, and I don't believe the ink is the problem, as Lamy turquoise is a very well behaved ink and flows very nicely in every pen I've ever put it in. I soaked the nib in the feed in soapy water a couple of times and cleaned it out completely, and it still has issues where the nib seems to get starved of ink. I'll push a little bit on that little converter to flood the feed, and it seems to do well for a while. But it's getting better as I write, so I suspect that it's probably some oils, machine oils, that get into that feed during manufacturing. And the more I clean it, and the more I write with it, the better it gets. The little push converter in there seems to work well, but they don't take a lot of ink, around 0.5 milliliter. I like the pen's weight as compared to the very light Kaweco Sport. I can see why people like the aluminum and brass versions of the Kaweco Sport. I don't like the very sharp edges on the section threads or this tiny thin section. And personally, I'm not a fan of very fine nibs. And this nib is a lot finer than you'd expect out of even an Eastern fine nib. But the fact that it's German is also a little bit confusing. I can't imagine how the extra fine nib would be. You'd probably use it in a sewing machine. The section and the body of the pen are just a little too narrow for my liking, and when the heavier cap is posted, it does backweight the balance of that pen, Whereas the Kaweco Classic, that's not unbalanced at all. With a clip, these little pens are great for throwing in a backpack or clipping to your notebook or your journal for knocking about town, going to class, meetings, on the bus, you know, all the things we don't do so much anymore. And if you're thinking I could get one of these and just swap in the nib unit from a Kaweco Sport, forget it. The Kaweco nib is a Bach and these are a Schmidt. They may both be German, but they won't play together. No Schmidt.
No shit, Sherlock.
And finally, the price. I know this is titanium, but still, $55 US with a needlepoint Schmidt nib. Not so much. I'd rather buy a Kaweco for $25 US, add a converter and a clip, and you're up to $37 US. And the Kaweco AL Sport, all aluminum with a converter and a clip, is $92. Not so much more. So MaJohn isn't undercutting Kaweco that much. Still, you can get a cheap form factor for a couple of bucks and really make your colleagues jealous. Riddle me this.
Riddle me this, crime fighter. What room can no one enter? A mushroom.
How can you make a small, slippery metal section even more awful? Make it a triangular grip. The worst of both worlds from Kaweco and Lamy in one Chinese dollar pen. And there you have it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And don't forget that you can join as a member of my channel for only 99 cents a month, and I guarantee I will answer your comments in the comment section, and you get cool emojis and badges too. And that just leaves it for me to say, thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote.
I made this.